Hello everyone, it's Bev here and welcome to a brand new video on the YouTube channel. It's great to have your company. I'm continuing to build up towards the 2022 AFL season, which starts this Wednesday night. I cannot wait for it. Now, I thought in this video I would share with you my AFL fantasy team for round one. Just like a lot of other people, I love AFL fantasy. It's always a lot of fun each and every season. I've been working on my team for about a month now. I think I've come up with a pretty decent team. I'm going to share that with you in just a moment. But before I do, I just want to announce that I am running an AFL fantasy league. To join this league, you just head on over to fantasy.afl.com.au and use the code, all in capitals, N5WEH3HN. So that code again, N5WEH3HN. Of course, you can also press the link in the description and it will just take you straight to the league. Alright, it's time to share with you my AFL fantasy team for round one. Let's start with the defenders, and I will kick it off with my number one defender, Jack Crisp from Collingwood. Extraordinary that he's played every game since debuting at Collingwood. Quite an extraordinary stat, that one. And last season he was outstanding, averaging 100 plus throughout the season. He plays majority midfield. He's a reliable player, I think, to have in the defence. So happy to have him as my number one defender. Tom Stewart from Geelong, well, he's an intercept king for mine. Such a great interceptive player. He averaged 102 from round 16 onwards last season. And for mine, he's such a reliable defender. And that's the type of players that I think you need to have in your fantasy team. So happy to have him in my team. Jayden Short from Richmond, well, he produced a career-high 9 triple-figure scores last season. And he was clearly the best player at Richmond last season from a fantasy point of view. And he scored a whopping 126 in the pre-season match against Hawthorn at Devonport. And in that game, he took kickouts on a regular basis. And given kickouts do contribute to the fantasy score, I think he might be a good player to have in the defence. Justin McInerney might be an interesting one. I think he's a handy player to have in the defence, given he's now got that status to go with his midfield status. He averaged 80 late last season, and he scored 107 against North Melbourne in the pre-season. His price might be likely to go up as the season goes on as well. George Hewitt from Carlton, of course, he's one of the new recruits at the Blues. He looked good the other day, scoring 87 against Melbourne. He only laid 2 tackles, and he is known for his tackling. So with a few more tackles in that game, his score might have been up and around the 100 mark. He averaged 98 in the last 3 games last season. And to me, he looks like a nice, cheap pickup and add a bit of value too. So, yeah, got him in my team. And Paddy McCartan from the Swans, taking a bit of a gamble on him. He made a decent score of 50 against North Melbourne. He looks one of only very few rookie-priced players that are going to play round one. So I'm taking a gamble on him. And then on my interchange, I've got Sam De Koning from Geelong. He made a good 70 against the Gold Coast the other day. And Jordan Boyd from Carlton, he made a promising 45 points from 80% game time v Melbourne. Not sure if he plays round one, but he might be a handy 190k defender to have on the bench. Moving on to the midfielders, and I'll start with Touk Miller. Now, I know some people are staying right away from the 2 most expensive midfielders in fantasy this season, those being Touk Miller and Jack Steele. Some are picking both, some are picking one. Even though Touk Miller's expensive, I have to have him in my team though. He's so reliable. He averaged 122 last season. He'll give you 100 plus most weeks guaranteed. He's an easy captain choice. Yes, he's expensive, but you get what you pay for. I have to have him in my team, especially given the fact that he's so reliable. And the same goes for Jack Macrae. He is reliable as well. He will give you 100 plus most weeks as well. So, and also as well, I have to have a couple of Dogs players in my team because that would just be unheard of if I didn't have any Dogs players in my team. So he's in my team. Now, Lachie Neale, he averaged 123 in his Brownlow year, which was a couple of seasons ago now. Look, I'm happy to forget last season. It was interrupted by injury. Things didn't go his way last season. He looks to be great value, though, at his current price, and especially if he can get back to his 2020 form. So he must be in my team. Paddy Cripps is similar. He averaged 100 between the years 2016 and 2020. He looks great value if he can get back to averaging 100 this season. And I'm backing him in to do so because he looks fit. He looks ready to get back to his best in 2022. And I think he proved that to some extent by scoring a whopping 141 in the preseason match against Melbourne. He looks great value for mine. So cheap for a player that is so good at his best. And the same goes for Matt Rowell, who bursted onto the scene at the start of his AFL career. He's obviously had an injury-interrupted career since, but he scored 101 in the pre-season and looks like he might be able to bounce back this season and might be another value pickup. I've got him in my team. And then I've got the three best rookie midfield players in my team. So those being Jason Horne-Francis, Nick Dacos, and Josh Ward, hoping they score a pretty handy score weekly. So they're in my team. And on the bench, I've sort of paid a bit extra for my midfield bench players. Connor McDonald looks like he will play for Hawthorn on a regular basis this season. He looked good in that game against Richmond at Devonport. So he goes in. Brody Hough, I'm not sure if he'll play round one. He might be a chance to, though, given his given the injuries at West Coast. But he might be one to have on the bench. He scored 65 recently in the preseason match against Freo. In the ruck, I've got Max Gawn. For mine, he's the best ruckman in the competition, especially when it comes to AFL fantasy. He can go forward, he can go back. Have to have him as my number one ruckman. Now, Sam Draper might raise a few eyebrows, and I don't blame you, but I originally had Braden Preuss in my team as my second ruckman, but then he got himself suspended. So I thought, I don't want to spend too much on my second ruckman. So I brought in Sam Draper, who scored a nice 75 against St Kilda in the recent Amy Community Series match. I'm hoping that he can score around about there in the round one match against Geelong, especially given Geelong have always got their ruck issues. I'm not sure if he'll stay there after round one. I might just trade him at the end of round one for Braden Preuss, so I do want to have in my team. But, yeah, hoping to get a nice 70 to 75, maybe even a higher score from him in round one. And Jack Hayes, he looks like he might play round one for St Kilda. So he goes on the bench. In my forward line, I've got Josh Dunkley from the Western Bulldogs. In my opinion, he's just a must-have dual position player to have in the forward line, especially at his best. So he goes in. Stephen Coniglio, he impressed against Collingwood recently, scoring 120. He might prove to be a handy dual position player to have in the forward line as well. Zach Butters, he has been playing a bit more midfield time during the pre-season and has been scoring pretty well, so he goes in. Will Brodie is probably in most people's AFL fantasy teams. He averaged close to 90 a couple of years ago, and he scored 96 recently against the West Coast Eagles. He looks like a very cheap pickup, so he goes in my team. Hugo Ralph-Smith is another player at rookie price that's also in my team. He's a mid-forward option. He scored 86 recently against Hawthorn and looks like he might play round one. So let's hope that's the case because, yeah, he's in my starting team there. And Josh Riccelli looks like an absolute gun. Not only from a fantasy perspective, but just as a player overall, he looks like he's going to be a future star. And he scored 90 recently against Port Adelaide in the practice match a couple of weeks ago. So he's probably a must-have rookie to have in everyone's fantasy teams, I would have thought. Hugh Dixon's on the bench. He was a recent addition to the West Coast team. Not sure if he plays round one, but he goes on the bench, as well as Nick Martin from Essendon, who might play round one, I'm hearing. Rioli is there in my utility, but that could change. And there you go. That is my AFL fantasy team for round one as it stands right now. If you think you can beat me in AFL fantasy this season, well, make sure you join the Bev Show AFL Fantasy League. All the details are in the description below. Thank you very much for watching this video. I really do appreciate your support. Please give this video a thumbs up. Press that subscribe button. Comment down below your thoughts. I would love to hear the feedback. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, bye for now.